This conference will now be recorded.
See, we have one with green and one with yellow?
Yeah, the
Alright, so we're gonna call to order the meeting of the Monterey Select Board and Finance Committee. We have all three members of both committees present here in Town Hall. It's 5:32 PM on April 14th. And the first order of business is the warrant and the budget. So the warrant that we're gonna use is the yellow one without the school budget included. Because we've been advised by the schools council.
Yes.
And confirmed by town council, that's the appropriate thing to do.
Yes.
Because the school is going to provide us a full budget later, which is something that we asked for.
Do we have a date when they're gonna have that number?
No,
Do we have to have a special town meeting to then vote on that?
so. That said, we have to figure out how to best present that. And I think the best way to do it is to show the total operating budget last year, including the school, which was about $6,116,000, but also showing what it was last year minus the three school lines that we're not including this year.
What did we do? Did we just, okay, we just didn't fill that in.
And so that gives you a pretty good apples to apples comparison of the part of the budget that we can act on.
I mean, we could fill these in, the last year.
So,
I think there's a concern, and this is going around, this is for all 5 towns. And,
Oh, that someone would try to set it.
someone would try to set the number. And, this recommendation came from the, through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education also recommended it. And so they felt it would be the best thing to do, because you could also, and talking to Donna, putting numbers in there that aren't the real numbers could be outside of the boundaries of the article as well. So we'd have to talk to the moderator. The moderator could say, we're not putting any numbers in there. We're not gonna add any numbers. So it was recommended to not put any numbers in there and come back at a later date and just vote on those, so.
I did float the concept of, well, we had an end of June ATM as a result of COVID. Despite the fact, I mean, obviously it was COVID, so I would call that extenuating circumstances. Donna's responses when Roger asked her if we could postpone town meeting was to say, no, it's in our bylaws. But it was still in our bylaws when we postponed because of COVID. I would call this more than 30% of your budget not being on your budget is what I would call a fairly extenuating circumstance that was out of our capacity to cope with. I did leave her a voicemail today saying, hey, like, that, we talked with the state to find out if this is enough of an extenuating circumstance to postpone town meeting. Because I personally, if I was a voter, I would feel very uncomfortable with 30% of the budget, a big old hole on there. And we're gonna have to have another town meeting anyway.
Do you have to have a certain minimum number of votes? Like, what if many people in the town said, I'm abstaining because I'm not gonna vote on something
I
that,
think our quorum's 14, Jeff,
that's it?
something like that. So. It's an interesting idea.
I don't like any of the options, just to be clear.
Yeah. I mean, one option is to do what we did in 2020. It was very cold at the pavilion. We met at the first Saturday. Articles to a later date, probably at 1 PM because it was warmer in the pavilion at 1 PM. um, by Roger and Donna as well. And we're more than welcome to do that. At a certain point, it comes down to what a motion that would be made at town meeting.
Because we'd have to hold it and then
Vote at town meeting to vote.
go into town meeting.
So, and I think in some ways that's really call the annual town meeting for the first Saturday as a whole.
That sounds right.
It's just, which by the way, part of the reason, Frank, that we didn't ask for a deadline in the school budget, deadline in the school budget. A problem to begin with,
Okay.
was them feeling or budgeting
don't think so either.
anything in the purview of this board.
No,
Yeah.
it's a comment about the future operation of the board. And why I think it's important that you consider your position on something, which is that if you are no longer actually a member of the fire department, and the only ethics issue with the fire department, as with any department, the ethics issue is always whether you have monetary gain. That's their primary
Or
issue.
loss,
Monetary involvement, right?
potential.
Right, and I realize it applies to relatives as well, but I just wanna put out there that with Frank leaving the board, and the only person, unless there's a write-in candidate that wins, would be Kara. And I just feel like we can't, as a board, make decisions concerning the fire department with one member. And if anybody is gonna compare monetary gain or loss, her family would have a much bigger impact than would you personally or your family. And I don't wanna be the only one out there making this decision. I'm not a mayor and I don't think it's right, plus we need 2 signatures on everything, right? So I'm just putting out there that I'd like you to think about it. You don't have to say anything.
I thought about it, Susan. I thought about it for several years, and I actually spoke to town council several weeks ago and explained the situation, and I talked about how I'm hardly on the fire department and basically off, and should I formally resign? And I may do that anyway, because it's the right thing to do. But basically, that has no effect. And is there a disclosure form I could do and participate? Nope. So the only real relief that anyone could get from my ethics violation is if my family member who is on the fire department quit. I can quit,
Okay.
but and then look, one deeply tied into the fire department issue is the ambulance issue.
Yep.
And
that's
that
still there.
is more of a financial conflict of interest that I have. So
I got you.
that troubles me. It's very painful. I've told people it's a disservice to the town. Had I known that it would be the most hot topic of the last 2 years, I would have tried harder to find a replacement 2 years ago when I ran uncontested, kind of against my will in some ways because no one else was willing to do it. Even though I said at the time I ran in May and I knew that I was moving in September and I didn't even know where to. So I didn't know if I could serve more than 5 months.
Right.
On the term, but it was me or nobody. So, and there was a town administrator transition going on at the time, and I felt like I was obligated to the town in a way to see that through. I think in the same way that you felt obligated to see some of the fire department issues through. So all that said, it has been painful for me personally. I have considered several times in the last couple of years, different ways in which I could resolve the situation. I've spoken to town council and the state ethics commission, and they don't really care whether it's $1,000 or $2,000. And by the way, it is not a potential financial impact. It has, in some ways, been a real financial impact in the last couple of years. So if you just look at my payroll, you can see that it declined before I got out of it. So it's not like some theoretical, the more professional a department gets, the less it relies on on-call volunteers. It's that simple. So it's a real financial impact. It's not only potential, but it's been actual in a way. And it's not just me, but it's also an immediate family member. So that is the status, and I am totally with you, Susan. I wish there was a workaround, but unfortunately, that situation being as it is, if it was about me quitting, I probably would have quit a year ago.
But
Because I recognized after Dell got hurt that this issue is very pressing and very important. And I would probably serve more value up here than I would up there. And I recognized that at the time, and it was a moot point because of the family connection. And then the Southern Berkshire thing kind of coming out of left field in a sense is, we're now fire and EMS are becoming intertwined, and I have a direct family relation, which your mother-in-law counts the same as your own mother, or counts the same as your own spouse, is they count as immediate family, who works something like 30 or more hours per week at, yeah, like 36 hours a week, I think. So, and I talked to ethics about that when I was getting married. Because in August, I think it kind of became, we were doing something, I negotiated the first contract, or we all did, but I worked directly with Southern Berkshire and, was it even Kevin Wall? But I remember James Santos was here, and I remember Lou Gianni was here, and we negotiated the Southern Berkshire ambulance contract. I negotiated that, and at the time, I think I was dating my now wife. And her mother was only working there 1 day shift per week. And since then, we've become married, and she has picked up an extra 24 hours there. So it's kind of a minefield, and it's painful to me, and it's a disservice to the town, and I am sorry about that. And it's been extra burden on the two of you, and it stinks, and you can talk to town council.
I was just gonna say, I think I'm
I
gonna
can
need
talk
to
to
talk
town
to
council.
town council, because I see coming down the pike situations where there will only be one select board member that can opine, and I don't know what we do in that.
So, I don't know, I think you gotta take it situation by situation. There is technically the rule of necessity, but is usually, as I understand it, only invoked when the board or committee in question is absolutely compelled to act on a matter. So, for instance, if there is a zoning board of appeals is hearing a special permit, and 4 of the 5 members happen to be abutters, right?
Right.
But you have to hear the special
Right.
permit, there's no other body that can do that. Then there is what's called the rule of necessity, and you can talk to town council about that. And if between the last time I talked to Donna about this particular issue and now, she's come up with some creative way in which I can, not participate, in which I can participate. It's painful for me. At the beginning of when I got on the board, I had a lot of family relations. And actually, in some ways, it's decreased. My mother got off of the community center job. I could technically tender my resignation for the fire department. And so those things have shrunken away, but then they've grown in other ways. And my first term, geez, we didn't do anything about the fire department, hardly. And then no one was anticipating, or maybe not no one was anticipating, but a lot changed quickly. And when I ran for a second term, in part due to, I didn't know.
People running.
I remember being at the caucus and saying, I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to live in Monterey because I don't have housing lined up, and I know that I'm moving 4 months after the election. And then Roger's wife said, what about your family house down the road from your parents? And I vaguely knew my family members, and I reached out to them, and that's been that. But, that was never a forever situation. And part of it was to stay on the select board, so that was too much. But it's an interesting, it's a very important subject, and I wish I had a better answer right now, and I don't, but do keep talking about it and thinking about it, and please talk to town council, and I will as well. But I don't have a great answer for you.
Can I explain what I heard from ethics board? I'm not trying to make a case here. I just don't wanna be coming onto a board where everybody hates me because of my husband's job. I
I don't think we're
understand.
gonna hate you.
I
It's
know
a
that.
question of whether you can participate in a conversation and a decision, not about whether you're liked or not liked, or
No, well,
your opinion. I would respect his opinion, you
yeah.
can't offer it, right?
Mhm. From the ethics board, the fact that Chris's salary was separated and that Sean's salary was separated, separates my monetary gain and loss from all other items. It also allows Justin to act on those two items because his or his father's monetary gain or loss is not affected by Chris's salary or Sean's salary. So the two items I cannot legally act on, this is from my 3 conversations with the ethics board. The 2 items that I cannot legally act on are the 2 items that Justin now can legally act on.
So you do know they're paid out of the general fire department compensation budget as well? at
Right now,
times,
they are.
And will be,
How so?
for calls.
Until, yeah.
If they go to calls when they're not on duty.
So it's a long conversation, I don't know that we could settle it here today, but I appreciate,
I'm not,
The goodwill
I
and
just don't want it to be like I'm here and saying, well, they told me just,
well, I think also what's, the state, the attorney of the day, and I don't know who you spoke to, can often be good, but they have their limitations, it depends on who you get, and sometimes they'll say whatever they will. Town council is great, and when and if you're on the select board, town council can also be a resource, because oftentimes when I faced a difficult situation, I do often call ethics. I don't know how many times I call ethics in the 5 years I've been on the board, probably
They have,
15 or 20.
they have a plaque.
They're in town on the,
They're calling us their.
but depending who I get, you know, you might be able to get their name and write it down, and they keep a log of that you called them, but town council, when it's really dicey, I do rely on town council, I do. Because she knows me and she knows the town and she knows, and we're paying her a lot of money to protect us and. Anyway, but appreciate it, the thought, so. But I do think we thoroughly discussed that for not being on the agenda. So, but an important, very important, subject. So the warrant, and I do wanna get to Rob, so I don't wanna, take too
Take your
long.
time, no.
But,
You've got a lot more important things to talk about.
The cover letter, we'll go over that, I actually need some work because of the school thing.
That's
But, yeah, Rob, why don't we move on down the agenda to, the historic district consultant.
So, thank you, I'll try to be brief, because I know you have a lot and this is small potatoes compared to everything else.
No.
But I just wanted to do, 2 things. The first phase of the historic district process, the contract with the Pioneer Valley consultant has been completed. They completed a very thorough, as well as the public outreach, which was necessary. They also completed a complete update of the historic inventory of all the buildings in this district, which wasn't absolutely essential for the nomination process, but it's really the first step in the next part. So we included that in the first contract. So even if we decided not to go ahead with the second phase, this is very valuable. So there's 62 pages of updated, both graphical and updated photographs and maps and so on. So it's a really great resource that will be posted on the Macris site. So I'm really happy with what Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has achieved. And so at this point, the Historical Commission has voted to go forward with the second phase. We asked Pioneer Valley to draft a proposed contract, which we sent to you folks a few weeks ago. So basically here tonight, I'm here to recommend that the Historical Commission has voted to recommend that we go forward with this. This was, town meeting approved the funds for this multi-year contract at last year's annual town meeting. So happy to answer any questions you have, Any comments?
Well, we approved the funds.
Yeah.
Is it coming in on budget?
Yep, yeah, so the combination, if you recall, the first phase and part of second phase, there was special town meeting money in, it was the fall of 2024.
$4,000.
And so that phase one was covered under that. The phase two, I believe the appropriation last year was
12,000.
12,000. The contract is a maximum of $8,000.
For one and two?
So the combination of one and two is $12,000.
Oh, and so we have 16 appropriated, so we're coming in under budget.
So we have extra money. The proposals came in under, or Pioneer Valley's proposal came in under what the maximum that was appropriated. So that's good. Their contract is for the scope of work, is a maximum, a bill of a maximum of $8,000, including reimbursable expenses. So we don't expect that there's gonna be any extras, but dealing with the state, with Mass Historical, it's possible, but they're not anticipating, we're not anticipating it. So we should come in under budget of the total fund, so there should be some money left over. But it's at least a 2-year process from where we are now to prepare the nomination, submit it, get 2 or 3 revisions, and then assuming they approve it, then make the final hearing and presentation to Mass Historical. And then once that happens, if Mass Historic approves it, then it goes to the National Park Service for final approval. So that's about a 2-year
Is there a
process.
point at which the town also votes on it? Or-
No.
No.
The residents of the district, so have to show approval.
I mean, we've already essentially
We
covered
approved it
that.
by approving the funds.
But at the end of the process, Mass Historical sends out a letter to everybody in the district. That's why we've gone through 2 outreach sessions. And, so theoretically, at the end of that process, if Mass Historical sent that letter out and got a huge wave of opposition, then they would not approve it. They would not go forward. But we've been, trying to keep everybody informed as we're going. Of course, some property owners have changed during the process, and that will happen. But at this point, so far, I'm not saying everybody's absolutely in favor of it, but there aren't people that are vocally opposed to it in the outreach that we've done.
There's not a lot to be opposed to, because
No,
there's
that's
not a lot of, there really aren't any restrictions.
Right, it
of this
doesn't
district.
impose any new restrictions at all on this, if it's approved. It's really just a designation, it's an honorary, we are now a historic district. It doesn't give us, it doesn't give the town or the state or the federal government any additional power to regulate anything, to say they can or have to do or can't do anything.
Paint colors or building or.
So the only thing it does is give them recognition that they're in an historic district. In a few cases for the town buildings in the district, it could open up the possibility of some grant money. For a commercial property, there is the potential for getting tax credits for commercial development in the historic district. So there's some positive, potential benefits, but there is no additional restriction. So it doesn't hurt anybody, it doesn't affect anybody negatively. And that's what the education and outreach is all about, is to make sure that people understood that we're not creating a historic district that has zoning power or regulatory power in any way. That's not what this is.
So the one criticism that I've heard of it, and you may well have heard it as well, but just to put on other people's radars, is that because it it may come up in response to our discussion at this meeting, is it's possibly a foot in the door, in no legally binding way, or in any, if you look at it, legally, it's not in any real way a foot in the door to a restrictive district, but in people's minds, and I think it's valid, if we have a national register, it's possibly more likely to become a restrictive local district. I also think this town and the village that is being proposed is very unlikely to become a restrictive district.
So that is a valid, comment. Is it a foot in the door? That is not, certainly not my intention. That would take town meeting approval. So that would be like a zoning bylaw to create an historic district that has regulatory power. That would require, I believe it's a 2/3 majority.
Well, and it's zoning.
It's,
And you
well,
can
it's not zoning, but.
Well, it's not zoning.
but it's a non-zoning
Because
bylaw.
New Marlboro or Southfield went through that a couple of years ago, I believe. Do you know?
Yeah, and they did create a national historic district.
In both of those.
But I don't know if they approved the historic district. So Great Barrington, for example, does have a limited historic district where there's regulatory power.
Where was that?
Well, it's funny. It isn't a huge district. It's individual properties. So the Mahaly Town Hall, the First Congregational Church, the library, it's selective properties. There's an historic district.
Are there
Lennox-
additional buildings
Len-
that aren't town owned? Like, there's some really clearly historic buildings on
There
some of
are,
the side streets,
But those are, it's not a contiguous
Okay.
district, it's really, they
Gotcha.
just pick the individual properties. I know the First Congregational Church is in that district, because
Right.
when I lived in Great Barrington, we had to deal with that. Lennox has a more conventional district that encompasses the town, and if anybody's proposing a major change, new construction, they have to go to the Historic District Commission and get approval, and there's a process. That's not what we're doing, that's not what we're proposing, but, if somebody feels that this is part of, a plan to do that, no, it is not, and it's not what we're proposing, and it would be up to town meeting if that were actually proposed at some point. I can't say that at some point in the future, so the Historic District Commission might propose that, and there will be a time for discussing that, but ultimately it will have to be a town meeting decision. This does not require town meeting approval.
So I do believe New Marlboro, the village of New Marlboro, did adopt one, just because their 2023 annual town meeting minutes, they were amending the historic structure demolition pause bylaw. So, but that's not what we're going for here. I think it's very unlikely anyone would ever want to go for that here. If you go to Center New Marlboro, those really are the old inn and the meeting house, those really are some.
Yeah,
consecutive
they are,
historic
and that's a
buildings.
contiguous small
Yeah.
parcel, and they're already pretty well conserved, but yeah, that's, it's a valid comment, and I appreciate that comment, you and I have had that conversation. But again, that's not what we're doing, that's not what this is for. At some point, we're hoping this is approved, that it is a national register. We would like to get some signs put up at that time saying this is a, historic, registered district, but that's a few years in the future.
Any other
I
questions?
don't have any questions, just a thank you for what you're doing.
Do you have a,
It's just a one signature.
all right, I'll move that we
Thanks
move,
for all that work.
I'll move that we move forward with phase 2 of the Monterey Center International Register nomination
I will
contract.
second
Any other discussion? We'll call a vote.
Yes.
Yes, unanimous.
approval. I think the complete work of all the historic buildings should be full reading.
Yeah, well, it is, and I forwarded this to Roger to send to you so you can see it. There's a couple of little tiny edits that still need to be made, but
Tried
So
to print
this
it
will
out,
be-
color coordinating too.
Yeah, they're highlighted in a couple of corrections.
The printer bomb.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and we will keep you informed.
Let us know if you think of a fifth member for the historical commission.
Yeah.
We're just short one member.
Yes.
Anyone who's interested.
Yeah, no, we would like to get another member, obviously. I had mentioned when I asked Roger to put me on the agenda, I intended to bring the plaque that we got, the town got at the Rev 250 celebration back in January. That's at the library, and also the certificate that we got, but those are really for the whole town. So you can, at some point, tell me what you want us to do with that, if you want to put it here in town hall, or if you want to keep it at the library, whatever, but that is a nice, very nice plaque that the state gave us for being part of the Knox 250 commemoration.
We can put it in the library.
And then
You've done a great job on that, too. All the people involved. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah,
Had a
so-
great time.
Well, we're still doing
Got one more,
another talk on Thursday night,
So cool.
and the book is now out, so that's good. So,
Where's the book?
I was one of five, the five co-authors, so each of the speakers that we've had, Bernie Drew, Gary Levier, Tommy Luce, Ron Bernard, each of the towns along here, contributed a chapter. So that, that book has now been published, and we're giving out copies, so.
Who published it? Did you guys sell?
The Berkshire County Historical Society published it, they got a
Cool.
grant to publish that partially from Houston Heritage. And, they're selling the books for $15 to cover some of their costs. But we're also, we, the Historical Society bought some copies, so we're using those as a fundraiser for the Historical Society. Society.
So, I'm gonna give that to you. If we get that signed
Okay,
by the other person, they can just scan and
Okay.
they send me the copy of that with the signature on it.
great, I will send that to Shannon. Great, thank you very much, and we'll get the signed version back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, good seeing you. Thank you.
You have a good night. Alright, are we going back to letter?
I wanna go back to the letter, let's just knock out this other order of business, the last real item of the agenda, which is special municipal employee status for Emily Stockman.
Alright.
So,
So I got some, at some point, because they gave me examples of the letter. So back in 2018, Stephen Weiss, Carol Edelman, Ken Bassler, at the selectmen's meeting, May 29th, 2018, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to grant special municipal employee status for the position of conservation wetland consultant to Emily Stockman with regard to the Monterey Library Notice of Intent filed. So it's the same thing. There was a notice of intent for an ecological restoration limited project, pond dredging over at Stevens Lake. And the Conservation Commission oftentimes, they will say that there has to be a special study done and that a person has to be hired. And the applicant pays for that. And Emily Stockman is the go-to conservation wetland consultant. So that's all they're
so
looking
does it
for.
not matter if we already made the agent position itself a special municipal employee designation?
The agent itself?
The position. So,
Well, I don't know.
A couple of years
Is she
ago-
Was she stepping in as the agent
So-
at this point?
no, I'm just trying to, so the special municipal employee thing, it doesn't always make common sense to me, I gotta be honest with you all.
Yeah.
Because at one point, Roger, we used to do it on a case-by-case basis.
And like what kind of case, like?
Chris Blair would say, I forget why he wanted it, he was on the Concom at the time, but maybe worked for someone.
Oh, I see.
People would come, Chris Gannon came, I think, because he
Yeah,
wanted to work on the
yes.
website.
Yes.
But at some point, probably about 3 years ago, we took a whole list of positions and made them all special municipal employees. Because that's the right way to do it. It's very confusing. Because at that time, we were told to do it by the position, not the person.
What position would this even be?
That, I don't know.
Conservation wetland consultant,
Okay.
which must have been on that list.
Well, I don't know if it's on the list, and I could probably,
So Lisa, they have several examples of the letter, which 2018. This is actually from Beckett.
I mean,
Rick Barrington.
Doesn't
They're
appear in any of
examples
the
of the letter.
documents on the town.
Yeah, so
it's in the minutes. Oh, no, I don't know that we did wetland consultant. I just, so I'm looking at December of 2023. I'm sorry, this is such a rabbit hole, but it always comes up. So in December of 2023, we did approve a list. I'm just gonna see if it's on there, just to be thorough.
A list of what?
Positions that we deemed to be special
Special,
municipal
okay.
employees. It is,
It is, or.
it is the Concom, Parks Commission, Community Center Committee, Council on the Aging, Cultural Council, Historical Commission, the Garfield Working Group, Renewable Energy Working Group, Board of Appeals, Cemetery Commission, Finance Committee, Tree Ward, Moderator, Constable, Board of Health, Board of Assessors, Library Trustees, and Planning Board.
Okay, but that's all the people serving on those boards.
Yeah.
This is
It's
not that.
Yeah, no, but I understand, and we should sign this letter. I just, people used to come to us piecemeal.
Yeah.
And then just so that you know, and you know, and you know, and Mickey knows,
What? She says. What?
if someone comes in the future and is on one of those for special municipal employee status, we made those, it's in the minutes of October, or December 12th, 2023, and the motion was, what a weird thing. The board reviewed the special municipal employee suggested designations. The list will supersede any previous designations. A motion was made to accept the list as proposed. The motion was seconded and unanimously approved. Anyway, all that said, sorry, rabbit hole.
That's all right. No, it's good.
Do you have the letter for us to sign?
Yeah, yeah.
So in this particular instance, it's just Emily Stockman, just as a wetland consultant.
And their whole reason for that is they want to dredge there. And dredging is like amazingly disruptive. Plus apparently there's some heavy metals in the sediment, probably from prior use of treated wood for docks. And it will obviously bring those up into the ambient column, so yeah, I think chromium as well.
Yeah, probably, that's what they use.
CCA.
Yeah.
So that's why it came up, is that they want another opinion as to whether there's a net benefit.
Okay, so back to the town meeting warrant and letter. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to workshop this a little bit just because of in the school in particular, but why don't we just start from the top? And I have one other small request that I lost. Do you have a copy, Frank?
I haven't.
No, take that, I stole you.
Wouldn't this also include increases, because it has to come up, because it's their highest 3 years of pay. So every time they reassess, the people that they looked at, if they're still working there, are gonna be a higher pay rate. So the assessor would increase for those people as well. And I have.
Were you talking about 3
For
full-time?
sure county retirement.
Yeah,
The way the year-over-year increase of roughly reflects the addition of 3 full-time, which it may, but I have no way of knowing.
So
what
Susan,
the
I
increase
wrote that,
is.
I wrote
Right.
that, and it, potentially, we could make it more accurate by saying it's a little bit more vague, but we are fully funded in Berkshire County Retirement as of last year.
Mhm.
And I do believe towns were basically level funded year over year. And I'm not saying the assessment might have, because we're fully funded.
I thought we were adding.
No, we had a meeting with, Berkshire, did Berkshire County Retirement come to a meeting and tell us we are fully funded? And I forget all of the exact details of what that means or what the account balance is, and you know they keep their assessment cards close to their table.
So close.
But I do believe, you know,
So you believe that as far as you know, it's fully funded, including the projected increases that people's salaries will have by the time they retire? You see why
I do see what you're saying, so it's actuarial stuff, right? So I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't know what fully funded means. Does it mean everyone retired today
No,
and
but you
lived
have to go by
20,
the
40?
SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, and if it's an official, defined benefit, they have actuaries that will show you, you know, inflation and all that, and are you covering that?
Inflation and da-da-da, you don't know how long people are gonna live
Yeah, but
for.
that's why you have
and-
actuaries, you know?
And so
They
actuarially,
go the
and
guy that
the
smokes
numbers
long.
went in and they did their actuarial. And as of the last year, maybe the year before, I forget when we had the meeting with them or how we learned, but they are now fully funded.
We'll have to ask, because
And
I would assume that fully funded means that we wouldn't be paying them money. Right? So I'll have to ask.
No,
What was your question?
no,
Because if you're fully
if you're
funded,
fully funded and then you
You're
stop putting
fully
money in,
funded,
then
you're
you're,
fully funded
get
for
that.
what is
Because money will
happening
come
this
out.
year.
I know.
If you stop this year, you fully funded. So every year you're gonna have to contribute because inflation, salaries go up, your contributions. are-
changes, et cetera.
but it might be kind of like our OPEB trust, right?
Yes.
We're putting out 27, we're adding 51.
Because those people will eventually.
We're playing catch up.
Yeah.
A little bit, but at some point, our actuary will say, you are fully funded, and what we'll probably try to do is put it out 27, put in 27.
Right.
Maybe interest, maybe we use the interest, I don't know. All I know is, I believe towns are kind of seeing a leveling off, because we're no longer playing catch up, we're no longer trying to build a fund. Maybe all of the new full-time positions that are being added throughout the county will change that, I don't know. But if you take our full number and divide it by the amount of employees, it gives you something like 15,000.
Right.
But I do believe with the full, so I don't know the right way to word that. I think
I see your
there's-
point, I think your point is fair, and
maybe there's a better word than roughly or better phrasing.
And I had two conversations and I'm trying to get some better estimate of what, that group fire and police employees cost, and they just won't budge.
Because they do cost more, right? We all know that,
Yes, they
so.
do, but they won't even give you, and it seems ridiculous to me that they can't even give you an
That does seem
approximation.
ridiculous.
It's just absurd. They don't
They know
want
the
to,
math.
they have to know, they probably know to the person.
I know.
But they're claiming that it's such complex actuarial things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, because every person is different.
Are they
and we know
contracting that
averages.
work out?
It's impossible. But at the end of the day,
I, my